Hello friends, I'm Misty, and today I'm going to tell you an amazing story about the adventurous journey of some cute little owls. So, let's get started with the story. At the beginning of the movie, a few cute owls are shown. Among them is Soren, the protagonist of today's movie. He was pretending to be one of the guardians while entertaining his sister. Actually, the guardians are a group of legendary warriors among the owls. From a very young age, Soren's father had told him stories about the Guardians. Soren deeply wished that one day he would become a member of the Guardians. However, he had only heard of the Guardians in stories and had never seen them with his own eyes. Anyway, while he was entertaining his little sister, his older brother Clud mocked him. Clud didn't believe any part of the story. In his view, it was better not to listen to such make-believe tales. He told everyone to go to bed. Then their father came in and told them that the stories of the Guardians were a part of their culture, something they could learn a lot from. But Clud was very annoyed by hearing the same story from his father repeatedly. However, Soren and his sister seemed mesmerized every time they listened to the story. They believed wholeheartedly that the Guardians of the Owls really existed. Before going to sleep, Soren told his sister another daring story about the Guardians. There was an evil group of owls called the Pure Ones, who had waged war against the Guardians to take over their kingdom. But among the Guardians was an owl named Lies of Keel, who had fought against the Pure Ones and defeated them. He even killed the leader of the Pure Ones. However, some owls claimed that the leader was still alive, and that he wore a metal mask to hide his face. In the middle of the story, Clud interrupted Soren again and said, "Please stop telling these useless stories. They're messing with her head. None of this is real." The next day, their father was teaching them to fly. Clud could fly decently, but Soren was struggling a lot. Their father told Clud, "You fly well, but you should make less noise with your wings while flying. The sound might scare away your prey." After that, he left the two brothers alone and went hunting with their mother. The two practiced for a while and then returned to their nest. Their younger sister was being looked after by a snake named Mrs. P. After making sure she was fine, Soren told Clud to practice flying again. As agreed, the two brothers went out again. While discussing the Guardians, they started arguing and accidentally lost balance. Before they knew it, the two brothers fell straight to the ground from their tall tree. Both were terrified, as neither of them could fly properly. What scared them even more was that their nest was so high up in the tree, and flying back seemed impossible for the two. At that moment, a rat suddenly attacked them. Both brothers tried to save each other from the rat. Just then, a couple of large owls appeared. Without saying a word, the two large owls grabbed the brothers and took off. The brothers kept asking, "Where are you taking us? Our home is up in that tree." But the owls silenced them with stern scolding. Soren noticed that it wasn't just the two of them being taken. Many other young owls were also being captured. During this abduction, Soren met a small owl named Gylfi. Finally, after flying for a long time, the captors brought them to a cave in a mountain. Soren saw that many owls like them were being forcefully imprisoned there. It seemed they were all brought there to be turned into slaves. Shortly after, they learned that they had been brought there to be enslaved by the Pure Ones. An owl named Grimble announced to everyone, "From today, you will serve our king, Metalbeak." Then the king's wife, Naira, appeared and said, "Perhaps for a few days, you'll worry about your families, but after a while, you'll start to think of this place as your home." But Gylfi and Soren couldn't hold back. They shouted, "Whatever happens, please let us go." Naira comes to the two of them and announces to everyone, "From today, these two will do all the heavy lifting here." She then offers Clark a choice. "Will you do the lifting like Soren, or do you want to become a brave warrior of the Pure Ones?" Clark selfishly abandons his brother and joins the warriors. On the other hand, Soren and Gylfi, along with the other kidnapped owls, are taken to a place illuminated by the moonlight, where they are told to keep staring at the moon. Gylfi warns Soren not to look at the moonlight, explaining that staring at it will hypnotize the owls, causing them to forget themselves. Soon, it is evident that the surrounding owls' eyes have turned completely white. By the next morning, all the owls have become slaves of the Pure Ones. They obey every command without question. Meanwhile, Naira was training Clark and the others to become warriors. Clark was not worried about his brother at all. Instead, he seemed to enjoy Naira's training immensely. Elsewhere, the rest of the owls are given stones and told to extract metal from them. These metals were being used to make something. Soren is instructed to carry the metal to a particular location. Soren notices beams of light emanating from that place, which he finds unbearable. At that site, bats were working with the metals, seemingly unaffected by the light. Observing all this, Soren realizes that the Pure Ones are likely planning something sinister. He tells Gylfi that they must escape from there as quickly as possible. Next, the story introduces Naira's husband, the current leader of the Pure Ones. He is seen talking to another owl, saying, "Soon, all the metals will be gathered in one place, and we will create a deadly trap to fight our enemies." He adds that all owls will eventually become slaves of the Pure Ones. Meanwhile, an owl named Grimble overhears Soren discussing their escape plan. He takes the two aside to a secluded place and says, "Learn to fly as quickly as possible." Soren and Gylfi are astonished and cannot understand why Grimble is helping them. Grimble explains that during the last war waged by the Pure Ones, his entire family was taken hostage, and he was forced to become their slave. They had assured him that as long as he worked for the Pure Ones, his family would remain unharmed. But now Grimble realizes that working for these wicked Pure Ones was a grave mistake. He wants to help Soren and Gylfi. Thus begins Soren and Gylfi's flying training. Elsewhere, Naira was conducting a test among her soldiers to find the most loyal one. Clark stood out, leading the group. Naira was thrilled by Clark's loyalty and took him to Soren to recruit him for their cause. She assumed that since Clark could fly so well, Soren might be able to as well. Moreover, she believed Soren would agree if Clark persuaded him. Meanwhile, Grimble was training Soren and Gylfi. He told Soren, "If you want to go home, you must learn to fly. But before that, you have to cross the sea to a tree called the Great Gahul, where the Guardians live." Just as Grimble was about to say more, Naira and Clark appeared. Grimble quickly urged Soren and Gylfi to fly away. Though Naira tried to stop them, Grimble intervened, giving the two young owls a chance to escape. Unfortunately, Grimble sacrificed his life to hold Naira back. Naira then asked Clark, "You had a good opportunity to escape. Why didn't you?" Clark replied, "This is my home now. Where else would I go?" Naira praised Clark profusely, saying, "I will make you the chief warrior, but in return, you must give me something because your brother has escaped." Without hesitation, Clark revealed the whereabouts of his little sister. Naira immediately ordered her to be brought there as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Soren and Gylfi, exhausted from flying, stop at a place. There, they meet an owl named Digger. Gylfi asks Digger for help in hiding. Digger takes them to his home, where they meet Digger's friend, Twilight. Interestingly, Twilight had kidnapped Mrs. P as food. Seeing Soren, Mrs. P becomes very happy and informs him about how much their parents were worried about them. Soren tells Twilight not to eat Mrs. P, as she was their caretaker. However, Soren informs Mrs. P that he cannot return home yet. Clud is still in the Pure One's cave, and he must find the Guardians to stop the Pure One's evil plans. Twilight and Digger feel very sad upon hearing that they are leaving, because no one had come to visit them in the past month. But Soren must leave. Afraid of being left alone, Twilight and Digger decide to join them. On the other hand, Clud has brought his sister to the cave. The little girl is terrified by the activities there. Soren and his small team reach the sea. There, they meet a porcupine. Strangely, the porcupine already knew about them. He says he had been waiting for Soren to arrive. The porcupine shows them the way to the Guardian's city. Following the porcupine's advice, they set off toward the Guardians by following the stars in the sky. After enduring immense hardship through storms and tempests, they get trapped in icy fog. They struggle to move forward. The ice causes one of Digger's wings to stop working. As he begins to fall into the water, A guardian owl arrives just in time to save him. Soren is amazed to see this owl. The guardians were large and majestic, just as his father had described. Finally, following the guardians, they reach the guardian city. There, Soren explains everything to the guardian king. There is a debate among the guardians. One side believes Soren is telling the truth, while the other side thinks he might be trying to mislead them. But realistically, why would just 4 or 5 owls travel such a long way for a mere prank? The Guardian King orders his soldiers to investigate the truth of Soren's story. Until then, Soren and his team stay in the Guardian's city. Soren feels very happy there. He is astonished by one thing about the city. Everyone is assigned tasks based on their abilities. Meanwhile, the leader of the Pure Ones has prepared his entire army. To boost their morale, he tells them that they are all part of the Pure Ones, the strongest of all. Therefore, they alone deserve to rule the world. He also speaks of their last war, how the owls of the Hool lineage had taken the Guardian city from them. During that war, he had fought with Guardian Lies of Kiel and was severely injured. To hide his scars, he now always wears a metal mask. But now, he says, they have the strength to face the Guardians. The time has come to take everything back from them. Hearing this, Clud's sister becomes even more frightened. She repeatedly requests Clud to take her back home. But Clud convinces her otherwise and turns her into one of their slaves. Meanwhile, a guardian owl teaches Soren to fly properly, even in strong winds and heavy rain. Soren quickly grasps the lessons and flies through the air accordingly. He becomes so immersed in flying that he starts sinking into the water, but the guardian owl saves him just in time. Meanwhile, the guardian soldiers reach the Pure Ones area. They attack some hidden owls there, only to realize it was a trap. The soldiers are immediately captured by the Pure Ones. Meanwhile, Soren was staying in the house of the guardian who had taught him to fly. By noticing a mark on the owl, Soren realizes that this is none other than the legendary guardian, Lies of Kiel. Among the characters from his father's stories, Lies of Kiel had always been Soren's favorite. Soren asks him why he has hidden his name. Lies of Kiel explains that in his battles with the Pure Ones, he had lost so much in life. That is why he left behind all the fighting and has now become a writer. At that moment, the Guardian soldiers return, bringing with them 2 injured owls. Soren rushes over and sees that one of them is his younger sister. However, she is still hypnotized. A doctor owl takes her to treat her. The soldiers inform everyone that Soren's words were true. The Pure Ones have completed all preparations for an attack. The Guardian King orders everyone to get ready for a counterattack. Soren pleads with Lies of Kiel to let him join them, but Lies refuses and tells him to stay back and look after his sister. Soon, all the Guardian forces set out to face the Pure Ones, and a fierce battle begins between the 2 sides. Meanwhile, Soren's sister regains consciousness and reveals to him that it was Clud who had taken her there. Moreover, it was Clud who handed her over to a Guardian soldier named Elements, who was secretly allied with the Pure Ones. Soren realizes that this traitor soldier has been working with the Pure Ones to destroy the Guardians completely. Without wasting a moment, Soren sets off with his small team toward the Pure Ones' stronghold. By this time, the Pure Ones had already captured all the Guardians using their metal. The power of the metal had immobilized every owl. Nyra sends her trained bats to eliminate the Guardian soldiers, and even betrays and kills the Guardian soldier Elements. By then, Soren had reached the scene. Seeing all this, he becomes utterly confused about how to save everyone from the power of the metal. Suddenly, he notices a blazing fire in the nearby forest. An idea strikes him. He takes a lamp from the forest, flies into the fire, ignites the lamp, and brings it out. He then throws the flaming lamp directly onto the metal structure. Instantly, the metal loses its power and deactivates, freeing the Guardian soldiers. Now, everyone joins forces to fight the Pure Ones. Soren notices his brother Clud advancing to join the battle. He rushes to stop him, but Clud attacks Soren instead. As they fight, the 2 brothers move closer to the raging fire in the forest. Soren repeatedly tries to convince Clud that he is on the wrong side. However, Clud firmly declares that he cannot live as weakly as Soren does. He explains that the respect he has received here is something he has never experienced before. Then, Clud attacks Soren again. Clud tries to push Soren into the fire, but instead, he himself falls into it and dies. Yet, until the very end, Soren tries to save his brother. Meanwhile, Lies of Kiel faces the Pure One's leader once again. In a brutal battle, Lies manages to defeat him yet again. But at that moment, the leader's wife, Naira, arrives. Together, the two overpower Lies of Kiel, and the leader nearly kills him. At the right moment, Soren brings a burning branch from the forest and drives it into the leader's chest, killing him. Seeing this, Naira flees with some of her forces. Thus, the Guardians emerge victorious once more. Everyone returns to the Guardians' city, where Soren's parents are also present. They feel immensely proud of Soren's bravery. Finally, Soren is named one of the Guardians, fulfilling a dream he had always cherished. However, Soren knows that Naira has escaped with her forces. He also believes that his brother Clud might not be dead. They may return one day seeking revenge. And this is how the movie ends. What did you think of the story? Let us know in the comments, and please like and subscribe to stay with us.